The rain was coming down hard, the kind that makes you want to run inside and never come out. Luna Mitchell pushed her grocery cart faster through the parking lot, trying to keep her hair from getting completely soaked. She should have brought an umbrella, but who expects a storm on a Tuesday evening in September? She was tired, really tired. Another long day at Meridian Industries had drained every bit of energy from her body. Her boss had shot down her marketing proposal again, barely looking at the presentation she'd spent weeks preparing. Sometimes she wondered why she even tried anymore. Luna loaded her groceries into her old Honda and sat for a moment, watching the windshield wipers fight against the heavy rain. She just wanted to get home, order some takeout and watch something mindless on TV. Maybe tomorrow would be better. Maybe. The drive home was slow. The rain made it hard to see, and traffic was moving like molasses. Luna turned up her radio and tried to relax, but something caught her eye as she drove past the old gas station on Maple Street. A man was standing next to a broken-down car, holding his phone up to the sky like he was trying to get a signal. Next to him was a little boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, huddled close to his father. They were both getting soaked. Luna drove past, then slowed down. She glanced in her rearview mirror and saw the man kicking the front tire of his car in frustration. The little boy looked scared and cold. "Keep driving," she told herself. "It's not your problem. You don't know these people." But something made her pull over. Maybe it was the way the little boy was clinging to his dad's jacket, or maybe she was just tired of being the kind of person who minded her own business all the time. Luna parked her car and ran over to them, using her grocery bag to shield her head from the rain. "Hey, are you okay?" she called out. The man looked up, surprised. He was tall with dark hair that was now plastered to his head from the rain. His eyes were kind but worried. "Our car just died," he said, raising his voice over the storm. "The engine's overheating and I can't get a signal to call for help." Luna looked at the little boy who was shivering despite wearing a thick jacket. His big brown eyes reminded her of her nephew. "Have you tried calling a tow truck?" she asked. "Yeah, but they won't come out in this weather. They said earliest would be tomorrow morning." The man ran his hand through his wet hair. "I'm Ryan, by the way. This is my son, Jake." "I'm Luna." She looked around at the empty road. There wasn't much open this late, especially in this weather. "Is there someone you can call? Family nearby?" Ryan shook his head. "We're new here. Just driving through, actually. We were supposed to reach our new place tonight, but..." He gestured at the car. Luna felt a familiar tug in her chest, the same feeling she got when she saw stray cats or watched sad movies. Her practical side was screaming at her to just offer to call someone for them and leave. But looking at Jake, who was trying so hard to be brave while clearly being miserable, made that impossible. "Look, this might sound crazy," she said before she could stop herself. "But I live about 10 minutes from here. You and your son could stay the night and we can figure out the car situation in the morning." Ryan's eyes widened. "Oh no, we couldn't possibly. You don't even know us." "I know you're stuck in the rain with a little boy," Luna said simply. "And I have a couch and hot chocolate." Jake perked up at the mention of hot chocolate. "Dad, I'm really cold," he whispered. Ryan looked torn. Luna could see him weighing his options, and she realized there probably weren't many. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I mean, we're complete strangers. This is incredibly kind of you, but I don't want to impose." "You're not imposing, I'm offering." Luna surprised herself with how certain she sounded. "Besides, my apartment could use some company." The rain was getting heavier, and Jake was starting to shiver more. That seemed to make up Ryan's mind. "Okay," he said gratefully. "Thank you so much. I promise we'll be out of your hair first thing in the morning." 20 minutes later, they were all sitting in Luna's small but cozy apartment. She'd given them towels and found an old sweater of her brother's for Ryan to wear while his clothes dried. Jake was wrapped in her softest blanket, sipping hot chocolate with marshmallows. "This is really good," Jake said, his voice still a little shaky from being cold. "My dad usually burns the milk when he makes hot chocolate." "Hey, I'm getting better at it," Ryan protested, but he was smiling. Luna noticed how his whole face changed when he smiled. The worry lines around his eyes softened. "Are you hungry?" Luna asked. "I was going to order pizza anyway." "We don't want to be any more trouble," Ryan started to say, but Jake's stomach chose that moment to growl loudly. "I think that's a yes." Luna laughed. "What kind do you like?" While they waited for the pizza, Luna learned that Ryan and Jake were moving from California. Ryan's wife had died 2 years ago, and he'd finally decided they needed a fresh start somewhere new. "I got a new job," he explained, keeping his voice light for Jake's sake. "Thought it would be good for both of us to try something different." Luna felt a pang of sympathy. She couldn't imagine losing someone so important and then having to start over in a new place with a child. "What kind of work do you do?" she asked. "Business stuff, pretty boring, really." Ryan deflected smoothly and turned the conversation to her. "What about you? What do you do here?" "I work at a company called Meridian Industries. Marketing department, it's..." She paused, searching for the right words. "Challenging." Challenging. How? Luna found herself telling this stranger things she rarely talked about. How she'd been at the company for 3 years but kept getting passed over for promotions. How her boss took credit for her ideas. How sometimes she felt invisible. "That sounds frustrating," Ryan said, and something in his voice made her think he really understood. "Yeah, well, that's work, right?" Luna shrugged, trying to sound casual. The pizza arrived and they ate sitting on Luna's living room floor, watching cartoons that Jake had found on TV. It should have been awkward, having strangers in her space, but somehow it wasn't. Jake was funny and smart, making commentary on the cartoon characters that had both adults laughing. Ryan was easy to talk to, asking genuine questions and actually listening to the answers. After dinner, Jake started yawning and Ryan suggested they should probably get some sleep. "You can take my bed," Luna offered. "I'll sleep on the other couch." "Absolutely not," Ryan said firmly. "You've already done more than enough. Jake and I will be fine on the couches." They compromised, with Jake taking the smaller couch and Ryan taking the longer one. Luna brought out extra pillows and blankets, making sure they were comfortable. "Luna," Jake called softly as she was turning off the lights. "Yeah? Thank you for helping us. My dad was really worried, but he was trying not to show it." Luna's heart melted a little. "You're very welcome, sweetheart. Sleep tight." As she lay in her own bed that night, listening to the rain still pattering against her windows, Luna couldn't help but smile. For the first time in months, her apartment didn't feel empty. Tomorrow, Ryan and Jake would fix their car and continue on to their new life, and she'd probably never see them again. But tonight, she'd done something good, something that mattered. She had no idea that this simple act of kindness would change her life forever. Luna woke up around midnight to the sound of someone moving around in her kitchen. For a second, she panicked, then remembered her unexpected guests. She slipped out of bed and padded quietly to the living room. Ryan was standing by her kitchen counter, looking out the window at the rain that was still coming down. He'd changed, back into his own clothes, which had dried by now. "Can't sleep?" Luna whispered, trying not to wake Jake. Ryan turned around, looking apologetic. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. My mind won't shut off, you know." Luna nodded. She knew that feeling well. "Want some tea? I was going to make some anyway." That wasn't exactly true, but Ryan looked like he could use someone to talk to. "If you're sure you don't mind." Luna put the kettle on and grabbed 2 mugs from her cabinet. "Chamomile, okay? It's supposed to be relaxing." "Sounds perfect." They sat at her small kitchen table, both speaking in hushed voices. Jake was sleeping deeply on the couch, exhausted from the day's adventure. "He's a good kid," Luna said, watching Jake's peaceful face. "Yeah, he is." Ryan's voice was soft with pride and something else, sadness maybe. "He's been through a lot these past couple years." Luna waited. She'd learned that sometimes people needed space to share difficult things. "My wife, Melissa, died of cancer when Jake was 5, Ryan said quietly. "It was really hard. For both of us." I'm so sorry, Luna said, and meant it. That must have been incredibly difficult. The worst part was watching Jake try to understand why his mom wasn't coming home anymore. Ryan stared into his tea. He kept asking if he'd done something wrong. Kids that age, they think everything is their fault. Luna felt her throat tighten. How is he doing now? Better. Some days are harder than others, but he's resilient. Kids are amazing that way. Ryan looked up at her. This move, it's partly for him. Our old neighborhood, our old house, everything reminded us of her. I thought maybe starting fresh somewhere new would help us both heal. That makes sense, Luna said. Sometimes you need to step away from all the memories to figure out how to carry them differently. Ryan looked at her with surprise. That's exactly it. Most people don't get that. They think we should stay close to everything that reminds us of her. Everyone grieves differently, Luna said simply. There's no right or wrong way. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the rain and Jake's steady breathing. What about you? Ryan asked. No family nearby? My parents live about 3 hours away. My brother's in college. Luna shrugged. I moved here for work thinking I'd build this amazing career, but it hasn't quite worked out that way. The job you mentioned earlier, with your boss taking credit for your work? Yeah. Luna found herself telling him more than she'd intended. About how she'd started at Meridian Industries with such high hopes. How she'd worked late nights and weekends on campaigns that her supervisor Mark would present as his own ideas. How every time she applied for a promotion, she was told she needed more experience. That's not right, Ryan said. And there was something in his voice that surprised her. Not just sympathy, but genuine anger on her behalf. It's just how things work sometimes, Luna said. Though hearing herself say it out loud made her realize how defeated she sounded. No, it's not. Good work should be recognized. People should be promoted based on merit, not office politics. You sound like you know something about office politics, Luna observed. Ryan smiled ruefully. You could say that. I've seen my share of workplaces where the wrong people get ahead. What kind of business are you in exactly? Luna asked. She'd noticed. He'd been vague about his new job earlier. Management consulting mostly. Help companies figure out how to run better. Ryan's answer was still general, but Luna didn't push. Maybe he was the type who didn't like talking about work. That sounds important, she said. Sometimes. Other times it feels like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Ryan grinned. But enough about work. Tell me something good about your life here. Friends? Hobbies? Secret talents? Luna laughed. Secret talents? I make really good chocolate chip cookies. Now that's useful. Jake would love that. He's got a serious sweet tooth. They talked for another hour about lighter things. Luna learned that Ryan loved old movies and terrible science fiction shows. He found out that she painted watercolors in her spare time and had a slight obsession with cooking competition shows. I've never actually tried making any of the fancy stuff they do on those shows, Luna admitted. I just like watching people who are really good at what they do. Maybe that's the appeal, Ryan said thoughtfully. Watching someone excel at their craft, get recognized for their talent. Luna looked at him sharply. He seemed to understand things that most people missed. Eventually, they both started yawning, and Ryan insisted they should try to get some sleep. Thank you, he said as they cleaned up their teacups. Not just for letting us stay, but for listening. It's been a while since I could just talk to someone like this. Me too, Luna realized. When was the last time she'd had a real conversation with someone? Not work small talk or catching up with old friends, but actually talking about things that mattered? The next morning came too quickly. Luna woke up to the smell of coffee and found Ryan in her kitchen, fully dressed and looking like he was ready to leave. I made coffee, he said, looking slightly embarrassed. Hope you don't mind. I'm an early riser and I didn't want to wake you. That's really sweet of you. Luna was touched by the thoughtfulness. Jake was still asleep on the couch, but he stirred when he heard their voices. Morning, sleepyhead, Luna said. Is it time to go? Jake asked, sounding disappointed. After breakfast, Ryan said. We should get the car looked at. Luna made pancakes while Ryan called the mechanic shop. She found herself moving slowly, not quite ready for them to leave yet. "Good news," Ryan said after hanging up. "They can see us in an hour, and it probably won't be too expensive to fix." "That's great," Luna said, and tried to mean it. At the mechanic shop, Luna waited with them while the technician looked at the car. It turned out to be a simple fix, a blown radiator hose that would take about 30 minutes to replace. "You really didn't have to come with us," Ryan said as they sat in the waiting area. "I wanted to make sure you got sorted out okay." Jake was playing with a puzzle someone had left in the waiting room, but he was clearly listening to their conversation. "Luna?" he said suddenly. "Will we see you again?" Luna felt her heart squeeze. "I hope so, sweetie." "Dad, can we have Luna over for dinner when we get our new house set up?" "If she wants to," Ryan said, looking at Luna hopefully. "I'd like that," Luna said, and realized she really meant it. When the car was fixed, they stood in the parking lot for a moment. Nobody quite ready to say goodbye. "Here," Ryan said, pulling out his phone. "Let me get your number. I promise I'll call when we get settled." They exchanged phone numbers, and Ryan insisted on getting her address so he could send her a proper thank you. "You don't need to do that," Luna protested. "Yes, I do. What you did for us, it meant more than you know." Jake hugged her tightly before getting in the car. "Thank you for the hot chocolate and pancakes and everything," he said. "Thank you for keeping me company," Luna replied, ruffling his hair. Ryan hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward and hugged her too. It was brief but warm, and Luna found herself wishing it could last longer. "Drive safely," she said. "We will. And Luna, thank you for everything." She watched them drive away, waving until their car disappeared around the corner. Then she stood there for a few more minutes, feeling strangely empty. Her apartment felt too quiet when she got home. But for the first time in a long time, she felt like she'd done something that really mattered. And maybe, just maybe, she'd made 2 new friends in the process. She had no idea that in just 2 days, her world would turn completely upside down. Monday morning came too fast. Luna hit the snooze button twice before finally dragging herself out of bed. The weekend had been strange without Ryan and Jake around. She'd caught herself checking her phone more than usual, hoping for a text saying they'd arrived safely at their new place. He'd sent a quick message Saturday evening. "Made it safe. Jake says hi and thanks again for everything." Luna had read it at least 5 times, smiling each time. Now, sitting in traffic on her way to work, she felt the familiar Monday morning dread settling in. Another week at Meridian Industries, another week of watching Mark take credit for her ideas while she stayed invisible in the background. But today felt different somehow. Maybe it was because she'd done something genuinely good over the weekend. Maybe it was because she'd remembered what it felt like to connect with people outside of work. Whatever it was, she felt a little lighter than usual. The parking lot at Meridian was more crowded than normal. Luna frowned as she searched for a space. It was only 8 in the morning, but there were cars everywhere. "Hey, Luna," her coworker, Jen, called out as Luna walked toward the building. "Can you believe it? Big day today." "What's going on?" Luna asked, confused. "Are you kidding me? The new CEO starts today. Don't tell me you forgot about the all-hands meeting." Luna's stomach dropped. She had completely forgotten. With everything that had happened over the weekend, the new CEO announcement had slipped her mind entirely. "Right, of course," she said quickly. "What time is the meeting again?" 9:30, in the main auditorium. "I heard he's supposed to be some kind of corporate turnaround specialist. You know what that means." Luna did know. It meant layoffs, restructuring, and a lot of nervous employees wondering if their jobs were safe. The office was buzzing with nervous energy. People were clustered in small groups, whispering about what the new CEO might be like. Luna had heard rumors that the company was struggling financially, but she hadn't realized things were bad enough to bring in someone specifically known for turning companies around. "Mitchell." Mark's voice cut through the chatter. "Conference room, 5 minutes. I want to go over the Henderson presentation before the meeting." Luna sighed. The Henderson presentation was another one of her projects that Mark would present as his own work. She'd spent 3 weeks researching their client's market position and developing a comprehensive strategy, only to watch Mark add his name to the top of every slide. In the conference room, Mark barely looked at her as he flipped through the presentation. "This looks good," he said, as if he'd created it himself. "I think the new CEO will be impressed with what our department has been producing." Luna bit her tongue. She'd learned long ago that correcting Mark only made things worse for her. "Any questions about the strategy?" she asked instead. "I think I can handle it," Mark said dismissively. "You should probably get to the auditorium early. I heard it's going to be packed." Luna left the conference room feeling the familiar frustration settle over her like a heavy blanket. 3 years of this. 3 years of being invisible while Mark got promoted twice. The auditorium was indeed packed. Luna found a seat in the middle section surrounded by colleagues who looked as nervous as she felt. Everyone knew that new CEOs usually meant big changes, and in a struggling company, that rarely meant good news for the employees. "I wonder what he's like," whispered Tom from accounting, who was sitting next to her. "Probably some cold corporate shark who's going to cut half our jobs," replied Jessica from HR. Luna only half listened to the speculation around her. She was thinking about the weekend, about Ryan and Jake, about how nice it had been to feel useful and valued, even if it was just for one night. At exactly 9:30, the lights dimmed, and their interim CEO, Patricia Williams, walked onto the stage. "Good morning, everyone," Patricia's voice echoed through the auditorium. "As you all know, today marks an important transition for Meridian Industries. We've brought in someone with an impressive track record of helping companies not just survive difficult times but thrive in them." She went on to talk about the challenges the company was facing and the need for fresh leadership and innovative thinking. Luna found her mind wandering. She wondered if Ryan and Jake had found their new house yet. She wondered if Jake liked his new school. "I know you're all anxious to meet our new CEO," Patricia continued. "So, without further delay, please join me in welcoming Ryan Chen." Luna's attention snapped back to the stage just as a familiar figure walked out from the wings. Time seemed to slow down. Luna blinked hard, certain she was seeing things. But no, it was definitely him. The same dark hair, the same kind eyes, the same confident walk. Ryan. The man who had stood in her kitchen making coffee just 2 days ago. The single father she'd helped when his car broke down. Ryan Chen, CEO of Meridian Industries. Luna felt like the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Around her, people were clapping politely, but the sound seemed to come from far away. She stared at the stage in complete shock as Ryan approached the microphone. For just a moment, his eyes swept over the crowd, and Luna could swear they found hers. His confident smile flickered, just slightly, but then he was speaking and his voice was strong and clear. "Thank you, Patricia, and thank you all for being here this morning." Luna's mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. The man who had thanked her for hot chocolate and hugged her goodbye in a mechanic shop parking lot was now standing on stage as her new boss who could fire her, promote her, or completely change her life with a single decision. "I know many of you are wondering what changes I'll be bringing to Meridian," Ryan continued. His voice was different here, more formal, more authoritative. This was corporate Ryan, not the vulnerable father she'd met in the rain. "I want to start by saying that I believe every company's greatest asset is its people. The employees who show up every day, who care about their work, who go above and beyond even when they don't think anyone notices." Luna felt her cheeks burning. Was he talking about her? Was this some kind of coincidence, or was he actually referring to their weekend together? "Over the next few weeks, I'll be meeting with different departments, reviewing our processes, and looking for ways to better recognize and reward the talent we already have here." The words seemed aimed directly at her, but Luna told herself she was being paranoid. He was just giving a standard new CEO speech. It had nothing to do with her personally. "I believe in leading with empathy and treating people with the respect they deserve," Ryan went on. Sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply pay attention to those around us who are working hard without recognition. Okay. Now Luna was certain he was looking at her. Several times during his speech, his eyes seemed to find her section of the auditorium. But that was impossible, wasn't it? There were hundreds of people here. He couldn't possibly pick her out of the crowd. Could he? The speech lasted about 20 minutes. Ryan talked about his vision for the company, his plans for growth, and his commitment to creating a workplace where everyone could succeed. He was articulate and inspiring. Nothing like the tired, worried father she'd comforted over tea in her kitchen. When he finished speaking, the auditorium erupted in applause. Luna clapped along mechanically, still trying to process what had just happened. As people began filing out, chattering excitedly about the new CEO's speech, Luna remained in her seat. She felt frozen, unable to move or think clearly. "He seems nice," Tom said as he gathered his things. "A lot better than I was expecting." "Yeah," Luna managed to say. "Really nice." Nice. The word felt completely inadequate for describing the person who had shared his deepest grief with her just days ago and was now standing on stage as the most powerful person in her professional life. As the auditorium slowly emptied, Luna finally forced herself to stand. She needed to get back to her desk and pretend to work while she figured out what this all meant. But as she reached the end of her row, she heard someone call her name. "Luna?" She turned around and there he was, Ryan. Her Ryan from the weekend, but also CEO Ryan, surrounded by assistants and looking every inch the powerful executive in his expensive suit. "Hi," she said weakly. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" His voice was professional, but his eyes were uncertain. Luna nodded, not trusting herself to speak. As Ryan's assistants led her toward a private conference room, she realized that her quiet, predictable life had just become incredibly complicated. She had no idea what she was supposed to say to the man who had hugged her goodbye in a parking lot and was now her boss, but she was about to find out. The conference room felt smaller with Ryan in it. Luna sat across from him at the polished table, her hands folded tightly in her lap. His assistants had closed the door behind them, leaving them completely alone. For the first time since that morning in her kitchen, for a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ryan loosened his tie slightly, and for just a second, Luna saw a glimpse of the tired father she'd helped just days ago. "So," Ryan said finally. "This is awkward." Luna let out a nervous laugh. "That's one way to put it. I had no idea you worked here," Ryan said quickly. "When I mentioned starting a new job, I never said the company name because, well, honestly, I wasn't supposed to tell anyone until it was officially announced." "I wouldn't have known anyway," Luna admitted. "I'm not exactly in the loop on executive decisions around here." Ryan studied her face. "Luna, I need you to know that what happened this weekend, that was real. I wasn't putting on some act or trying to manipulate anyone. I genuinely had no idea who you were." "I know," Luna said softly. "You couldn't have known I worked here. But Ryan, this is really complicated now." "I know it is." He ran his hand through his hair, messing up the perfect corporate styling. "I've been thinking about it all weekend. About you, about Jake asking when we'd see you again, about how I was going to call you for dinner, and now you're my boss. Now I'm your boss," he repeated, and the words sounded strange coming from his mouth. They sat in silence again. Luna could hear the distant sounds of the office returning to normal after the big meeting. People getting back to work, probably discussing the new CEO and what his arrival might mean for their jobs. "What do we do?" Luna asked. Ryan was quiet for a long time. "I don't know," he said finally. "But I want you to know that nothing changes about your job because of what happened between us. You're safe here, Luna. I would never use my position to hurt you, and you wouldn't use it to help me either, right?" The words came out more bitter than Luna intended. Ryan's eyes flashed with something that might have been pain. "That's not fair, isn't it? You know how hard I work, Ryan. You know how frustrated I am with being overlooked. Are you telling me that knowing me personally won't influence any decisions you make about my career?" I'm telling you that any decisions I make will be based on merit, not personal relationships. Luna nodded, but something cold was settling in her stomach. She could already see how this was going to go. Ryan would bend over backwards to prove he wasn't showing her favoritism, which meant she'd probably be worse off than before. I should get back to work, she said, standing up. Luna, wait. Ryan stood too. Can we try to be professional about this? I don't want things to be weird between us. Things are already weird, Ryan. Luna looked at him standing there in his expensive suit, and it hit her how different he seemed from the man who'd sat in her kitchen sharing his grief. You're the CEO now. I'm just another employee. She left the conference room before he could respond, her heart pounding as she walked back to her desk. Several co-workers looked up as she passed, and Luna wondered if they were curious about why the new CEO had wanted to speak with her privately. The rest of the week was torture. Luna tried to act normal, but everything felt different now. Every time she saw Ryan in the hallway, her stomach flipped. He was always surrounded by executives or assistants, looking completely in command and utterly unreachable. Worse, he seemed to be avoiding her. When their eyes met across the lobby or in meetings, he would look away quickly. The warm, easy connection they'd shared over the weekend felt like something she'd imagined. By Friday, Luna was exhausted from pretending everything was fine. She was staying late to finish a presentation for a potential new client when Mark appeared at her desk. Working hard, I see, he said, but his tone wasn't friendly. Just finishing up the Morrison proposal, Luna replied without looking up. About that. Mark perched on the edge of her desk in a way that made Luna uncomfortable. I've been thinking we might want to take a different approach. Luna finally looked at him. What kind of different approach? Well, with the new CEO making changes, I think it's important that our department shows strong leadership. I'm going to present the Morrison proposal myself. You mean you're going to present my work yourself, Luna said flatly. Mark's smile didn't reach his eyes. Luna, you're part of my team. When the team succeeds, we all succeed. Right, but when the team gets credit, only you get promoted. I don't like your attitude lately, Mark said, his voice getting sharper. Maybe you should think about whether this is really the right place for you. The threat was clear. Luna felt her hands clench into fists under her desk. I've put a lot of work into this company, she said carefully, and I'm sure the company appreciates that. But appreciation only goes so far. Results matter. Leadership matters. And frankly, I'm not sure you have what it takes to move up here. Mark left her sitting there, furious and helpless. Luna stared at her computer screen, trying not to cry. 3 years of this. 3 years of watching her work get stolen, her contributions ignored, her ambitions dismissed. What made it worse was knowing that Ryan was somewhere in this building, probably having no idea that one of his department heads was basically stealing from his employees. Or maybe he did know. Maybe this was just how business worked at this level. Luna was so lost in her anger that she didn't notice someone approaching her desk until they cleared their throat. Working late? She looked up to find Ryan standing there. The office was mostly empty now, just a few scattered people finishing up their day, just trying to stay ahead of things, Luna said, her voice carefully neutral. Ryan glanced around, then pulled up a chair next to her desk. Can we talk? Off the record? Luna saved her work and turned to face him. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his eyes. Being a new CEO was clearly taking its toll. How are you doing? He asked quietly. Really? The simple question, asked with genuine concern, almost broke Luna's composure. I'm fine. You don't look fine. Well, it's been a weird week, Ryan. Can you blame me? He was quiet for a moment. I've been looking at department reports, he said finally. Your work is impressive, Luna. Really impressive. Don't what? Don't do this. Don't sit here and tell me my work is good when we both know nothing's going to change. I'll keep doing the work, Mark will keep taking credit for it, and you'll keep pretending you don't know me. Ryan's jaw tightened. That's not what I'm doing. Isn't it? You haven't said a word to me all week. You look right through me in meetings. I get it, Ryan. You have to keep your distance, but don't sit here and patronize me about my work when you're not going to do anything about the situation. You don't understand the position I'm in, Ryan said, his voice strained. I understand perfectly. You're the CEO. You can do whatever you want. But you won't, because that would mean admitting that you know me personally, and that's complicated for you. They stared at each other for a long moment. Luna could see the conflict in Ryan's eyes, but she was tired of being understanding. Tired of making excuses for other people while her own career went nowhere. I should go, Ryan said finally, standing up. Yeah, you should. As he walked away, Luna felt something break inside her chest. Not just her heart, though, that was certainly cracking, but also her hope. Her belief that things might actually change for the better. She finished her work in silence, then gathered her things and headed for the parking garage. As she waited for the elevator, she made a decision. Monday morning, she was going to start looking for a new job. She couldn't keep working in a place where she was invisible, especially not when the one person who had really seen her was now pretending she didn't exist. As the elevator doors closed, Luna caught a glimpse of Ryan's office light still on. She wondered if he was thinking about her, about Jake, about the easy conversation they'd shared over tea in her kitchen. But it didn't matter anymore. That weekend felt like a dream now, and Luna was finally ready to wake up. Luna spent the weekend updating her resume and browsing job sites. It felt strange to be planning her exit from Meridian after 3 years, but she couldn't stay in a place where she felt invisible, especially not when seeing Ryan every day was like a constant reminder of what might have been. Monday morning, she printed out her resignation letter and sealed it in an envelope. Her hands were shaking slightly as she wrote, Ryan Chen, CEO, on the front. This was it. No more wondering what if, no more hoping things would change. She was taking control of her own life. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt longer than usual. Luna had never been up here before. Regular employees didn't have much reason to visit the CEO's office. Everything looked expensive and intimidating, all polished marble and gleaming wood. Can I help you? Ryan's assistant, a polished woman in her 40s, looked up from her computer. I need to deliver this to Mr. Chen, Luna said, holding up the envelope. I can take that for you. I'd prefer to give it to him directly if possible. The assistant glanced at the closed office door. He's in a meeting right now, but I can let him know you're here. That's okay. I'll just leave this with you. Luna chickened out at the last second. She wasn't ready to see Ryan's face when he read her resignation. She handed over the envelope and walked quickly back to the elevator, her heart pounding. It was done. In a few hours, Ryan would know she was leaving, and maybe he'd understand why. Back at her desk, Luna tried to focus on her work. She had 2 weeks to finish up her projects and train someone else to take over her responsibilities. The thought of Mark probably getting promoted to replace her made her stomach turn, but there wasn't much she could do about that now. Around lunchtime, her phone rang. Luna Mitchell speaking. Luna, it's Ryan. Could you come to my office, please? His voice was carefully professional, but Luna could hear something underneath it. Surprise, maybe. Or disappointment. I'm actually at lunch right now, she lied. This can't wait, please. The elevator ride back up to the executive floor felt even longer this time. Ryan's assistant waved her through to his office, giving her a curious look. Ryan was standing by his window when she walked in, her resignation letter open on his desk. He turned around as she closed the door behind her. 2 weeks' notice? He said without preamble. That's standard. This is because of me. It wasn't a question, but Luna answered anyway. This is because of a lot of things, Ryan. Sit down, please. Luna remained standing. I don't think there's much to discuss. I found a better opportunity and I'm taking it. What opportunity? Luna hadn't actually found another job yet, but she wasn't about to admit that. Does it matter? Ryan studied her face for a long moment. Then he walked to his desk and picked up a thick folder. Before you make any final decisions, I want you to see something. He handed her the folder. Luna opened it reluctantly and found herself looking at what appeared to be an internal investigation report. Her name was mentioned several times along with Mark's. "What is this?" she asked. "I've been reviewing all department activities since I started here. This is a report on the marketing department specifically." Ryan's voice was careful and professional. "It documents a pattern of, let's call it misappropriated credit for work product." Luna flipped through the pages, her eyes widening. There were emails, project timelines, and detailed analysis of who had actually created various campaigns and presentations. Her work was carefully documented and attributed to her, while Mark's actual contributions were shown to be minimal. "I don't understand," Luna said. "I told you I was looking at department reports. What I didn't tell you is that I was specifically looking into situations where good employees might not be getting proper recognition." Luna looked up at him sharply. "Because of me?" "Because of a lot of things. But yes, our conversation that night in your kitchen made me think about how many talented people might be overlooked in corporate environments." Luna felt her anger flaring. "So this is charity? You felt sorry for me?" "No," Ryan said firmly. "This is business. Good business. Companies that don't recognize and promote their best people lose those people to competitors. It's bad for everyone." He took the folder back and pulled out a single sheet of paper. "Mark Stevens has been placed on administrative leave pending a formal review of his management practices. The investigation found clear evidence of him taking credit for subordinates' work, not just yours." Luna's mouth fell open. "You fired Mark?" "I suspended him. The review will determine his final status with the company." Ryan's voice was still professional, but Luna could see the satisfaction in his eyes. "In the meantime, someone needs to run the marketing department." He handed her the single sheet of paper. It was a job offer. Marketing director, with a salary that was nearly double what she was currently making. "I can't accept this," Luna said immediately. "Why not?" "Because it looks like favoritism. Because people will think I got it because I know you personally. People will think you got it because Mark Stevens was removed and you're the most qualified person to replace him." Ryan's voice was getting less professional by the minute. "Luna, you've been doing director-level work for 3 years while being paid as a coordinator. This isn't charity. This is overdue." Luna stared at the job offer, her mind spinning. "Ryan, this is complicated." "It doesn't have to be." "Yes, it does." Luna's composure finally cracked. "You can't just pretend that weekend didn't happen. You can't act like we don't have feelings for each other, and then offer me a promotion. It's not fair to either of us." Ryan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. "You're right. I have been pretending. I've been trying so hard to be professional that I forgot to be human." He walked around his desk and sat on the edge of it, making himself less imposing. "The truth is, I've been thinking about you every day since I started this job. Not just because you work here, but because that night in your apartment was the first time in 2 years that I felt like myself again. The first time since Melissa died that I connected with someone who saw me as just Ryan, not as a widower or a CEO or anything else." Luna felt her throat tighten. "Ryan, I know this is complicated. I know there are professional boundaries and power dynamics and all sorts of good reasons why this could be a disaster. But I also know that I don't want to lose you. Not as an employee and not as whatever we might be to each other." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying, take the promotion. You earned it. And I'm saying that when 5 o'clock comes and we're both off the clock, I'd like to take you to dinner. As Ryan and Luna, not as CEO and employee." Luna looked down at the job offer in her hands. "People will talk. Let them talk. I'd rather deal with office gossip than spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been." A knock on the door interrupted them. Ryan's assistant peeked in. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a young man here who says he needs to see you urgently. He says his name is Jake." Ryan's face immediately shifted to concern. "Send him in." Jake burst through the door, still wearing his school backpack. His face lit up when he saw Luna. "Luna? Dad, you didn't tell me Luna worked here." "Jake, What are you doing here? How did you get here? Ryan was already moving toward his son. I took the bus after school. I wanted to surprise you at your new job, but then I saw Luna in the lobby. Luna found herself smiling despite everything. Hi, sweetheart. Shouldn't you be in school? School's over. Dad, can Luna come have dinner with us tonight? You promised. We could invite her over once we got settled. Ryan and Luna looked at each other. Jake's innocent enthusiasm cut through all the professional complications and corporate policies. What do you say? Ryan asked Luna quietly. Dinner with us? I promise Jake makes excellent conversation. Luna looked at the job offer in her hands, then at Jake's hopeful face, then at Ryan's uncertain smile. Okay, she said finally. But I'm bringing dessert. Deal, Ryan said, and his smile transformed his whole face. As they walked out of the office together, Ryan, Luna, and Jake, chattering excitedly about his new school, Luna realized that sometimes the best opportunities come from the most unexpected places. And sometimes, helping a stranger on a rainy night leads to exactly where you're supposed to be. 6 months later, when people asked Luna how she'd gotten her promotion, she'd just smile and say she'd been in the right place at the right time. She never mentioned that the right place had been her own kitchen, and the right time had been the moment she decided to be kind to a stranger.